Alright, hello, my name is Ethan Stevenson, and today I will be focusing on the French Revolution. Now, before someone begins to read into the Revolution, I believe it's important that they understand three distinct features of this revolution that will help them get a better grasp, especially if they know more about other revolutions in comparison to it. So the first one I'd like to bring out is that though this was a very cruel and violent revolution compared to other ones such as the Russian, it was not nearly as bad. Now, second, this is a revolution which many see as being controversial and open to interpretation in regard to its overall impact and importance on society as the future holds. And thirdly, this is a revolution which did not completely emerge out of Enlightenment ideas like many others have in the past or the future, which is very similar to the Russian Revolution. So to begin, we'll just briefly touch on some of the main points. The entire outline material I've based all this video off of is from the Censer and Hunt book, Liberty, Equality, and Fraternity. It's a great book. Has all the information you'll need to know on the French Revolution, including more supplemental information that also will be helpful. So, to begin, we'll just start from the top. The revolution was one that started in 1789 and went to 1799, and it essentially started from the French going to America to fight in the American Revolution. They came back heavily in debt. The Americans said, we're not basically going to pay any of the taxes you demand in order to recoup your losses. You're basically on your own. So what happens is King Louis has to try and curb the mounting debt somehow. So through a series of system reforms, he eventually increases taxes upon the lower class, which begins to get them unruly, considering they're already having bad weather and facing food price increases due to hailstorms that deplete crops. Now you couple this with the intellectuals of this time who are also starting to question the king and the overall makeup of the monarchy. So you start to get the overall society start to get somewhat unruly to the point where now the king believes that it's time to call an estate meeting, which has not been done in nearly 2 decades. So he calls the estate meeting together, which ultimately ends in basically tragedy. First and second estate get into a deadlock. Third estate gets mad and says they're basically done. They're out of here. They're going to start their own national assembly, which at point they eventually do. So as time persists, they leave. They start multiple protests, which turn somewhat violent. We have the storming of Bastille, which we won't touch on, but the book focuses on greatly. But we will touch on that on August 4th, the old regime is abolished by them. And then on August 26th, they begin to start making radical changes to the point where they make the Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizens, which is ultimately designed to give everybody equality and rights, liberty, property, security, whole 9 yards, and rids the system in their mind of the inequalities such as privileges for noble, unequal taxes, etc., etc. So meanwhile, as time persists, we have more protests that break out. We have the king and queen, which are moved from their palace outside Paris to in Paris by a series of protests of unruly women, and then more minute detail to the point where you get to more important facts, such as when the assembly begins at one point to start to break up. Now, this is very important because this leads to one group known as the Jacobins, which are very important considering they're the ones that called for a republic. Now, after they have a series of protests as well, the National Assembly starts to get into somewhat a little bit of tension considering their action towards the Jacobin. Now the Jacobins have a protest, it turns violent, National Assembly sends in troops to kind of curb them from being too unruly to the point where they actually end up killing about 50 of them. Now this begins to get tension start to rise because individuals start to look at the National Assembly as being the assembly which should speak for them, not ultimately silence them or kill them. So much tension starting to erupt again in France. And then meanwhile, in the background, you have the monarchs of Austria and Prussia who are now getting together and saying, listen, we like our monarchy. We don't want the French to threaten ours in any way. So they form a pact to say, well, you know what, we're going to protect the monarchy. So this goes on in the background, and at the same time you have the king and National Assembly which get the idea, hey, let's invade Austria, spread some Enlightenment ideas, loot some money, and get some food for our people, which they ultimately do. Now, this would be fine, except for the point that as time progresses, the revolutionaries catch wind that the king has been talking to Prussia, encouraging them to fight against the French. Now, given that the revolutionaries hear of this, they eventually get King Louis. They vote to suspend the monarchy, ultimately vote to create a new republic, and eventually they throw the king on trial, where he's tried and killed by guillotine. Now, this is also very important considering it leads to another important phase of the revolution, which is the Reign of Terror. And though it's perhaps the most well-known and most detailed, we'll just basically summarize it and leave more of the information to your own reading, such as the diaries of the other individuals and memoirs of the individuals of the Reign of Terror and its time. So it's good information. It'll highlight the minute details of what goes on. But basically, to sum it up, it's led by a Jacobin, Maximilien Robespierre, and a committee of public safety. And basically, they embark on a mass killing spree where they ultimately go and try to curb any individuals which might be counter-revolutionary, or they believe any individuals that might be standing in the way of intimidating other individuals in society. So ultimately, they try to progress and project the revolution to go much quicker, which they embark on a mass killing spree, which lasts about a year from 1793 to 1794, spring to spring, where they go on to kill anywhere from 16,000 to 40,000 individuals, depending on which record you look at. Now, this time comes and goes. The leader, Jacobin Maximilian, is eventually killed. After this happens, a new constitution is formed once again, but this time this one gives much more power to the wealthy. Now, while this is going on, this tension is also rising. At the same time, you still have French at war with Austria and Prussia, which is ultimately a success due in large part to Napoleon Bonaparte. So ultimately, after he's looked at a military hero, this leads much to his transition straight into ruler of France. And now this is where it starts to get somewhat controversial, as I mentioned before, because the individuals at this time believe that basically the revolution made a full circle. It's back to the same point it was at. Some see Napoleon Bonaparte as being the individual as one who is a worse leader. Some view him as being a better leader. Some say he stopped the revolutionary traits. Some say he projected them. So, as you read, another important document is to read the diary of Napoleon, many of the other sources on him, and you can kind of get a better feel in terms of how you view it. One can view it differently than others. I have viewed it very differently than other individuals in this class as well. So read through the information. That's just a very brief overview, and you can kind of see from there and get your own interpretation of it. Thank you.